Hi, book lovers, welcome to another interesting summary of Richard Dawkins's 2006 book, The God Delusion, stands as a landmark text in the contemporary discourse on science and religion. It is not merely an atheist's confession, but a comprehensive and meticulously structured polemic that attacks religious belief from multiple fronts: scientific, philosophical, moral, and psychological. The book's central thesis is that a supernatural creator does not exist, and that faith, far from being a virtue, is a harmful and irrational force in the world. Dawkins's goal is to raise the consciousness of atheists, emboldening them to be proud of their non-belief, and to provide a powerful set of arguments for a godless, yet deeply meaningful, worldview. The book is organized into 10 chapters, each building on the last to form a cumulative and unyielding assault on the foundations of religious thought. Dawkins begins in the first chapter by distinguishing between what he calls Einsteinian religion, the metaphorical feeling of awe and wonder at the complexity of the cosmos, and theistic religion, which involves belief in a personal, supernatural, and interventionist God. He clarifies that his target is the latter, and he dedicates the entire book to systematically dismantling its tenets. He also uses the opening to address the social stigma of atheism, arguing that it is a position that should be embraced and openly declared, not hidden in shame. In the second chapter, The God Hypothesis, Dawkins lays out the scientific backbone of his argument. He frames the existence of a supernatural creator as a testable scientific hypothesis that has been found wanting. The core of his reasoning is what he calls the ultimate Boeing 747 gambit. This is a direct rebuttal to the argument from design, which suggests that the complexity and apparent design of life necessitate a creator. Dawkins's powerful counter-argument is that any creator complex enough to design the universe would have to be even more complex and improbable than the universe it created. This, he argues, leads to an infinite regress of explanations, begging the question of who designed the designer. He presents Darwinian natural selection as the far more elegant and parsimonious alternative. Evolution, through a process of small, cumulative, and non-random steps, provides a powerful mechanism for generating the appearance of design from simplicity without the need for a supernatural intelligence. He highlights that natural selection is not a random process, but a deeply guided and cumulative one that preserves beneficial variations over vast stretches of time, leading to the highly improbable complexity of living organisms. Chapter 3, Arguments for God's Existence, sees Dawkins systematically dismantle the most common philosophical and theological arguments for God. He addresses Thomas Aquinas's 5 ways, dismissing them as pre-scientific and easily refuted in the light of modern cosmology. He critiques the ontological argument as a linguistic trick, arguing that one cannot define something into existence. He tackles the cosmological argument, the first cause argument, by pointing out that it simply pushes the problem of complexity back one step, as it fails to explain who or what caused God. A significant portion of this chapter is dedicated to the argument from fine-tuning, the idea that the universe's physical constants are so precisely balanced for life that it must be the work of a cosmic designer. Dawkins counters this with the anthropic principle and the multiverse theory. He argues that if there are an enormous number of universes, each with different physical laws, it is not a surprise that we happen to find ourselves in one where life is possible. He uses a vivid analogy of puddles and potholes on a road. A puddle might marvel at how perfectly its pothole is shaped to hold it, but the reality is that it simply occupies the hole it found itself in. In the fourth chapter, Why There Almost Certainly Is No God, Dawkins deepens his scientific case by applying Occam's razor. He argues that a godless universe is a simpler, more parsimonious explanation than one with a supercomplex deity. He further explores the idea of God as a God of the gaps, an ever-shrinking refuge for ignorance that believers fill with a divine explanation until science provides a better one. He warns against this tendency, which leads to a constantly retreating and weakened conception of God. The more science explains, the less there is for God to do. Chapter 5, The Roots of Religion, explores the psychological and sociological reasons for the persistence of religion. Dawkins suggests that religion is a byproduct or spandrel of other adaptive evolutionary traits. For example, our innate tendency to obey authority good for a child's safety and our hyperactive agency detection device useful for spotting predators can misfire, leading to a belief in supernatural agents and an unquestioning acceptance of religious teachings. He also introduces the concept of memes, cultural units of transmission that replicate and spread through a population. Religious memes, such as the promise of an afterlife or the threat of hell, are particularly effective and resilient, ensuring their own survival and spread. A crucial part of the book is Chapter 6, The Roots of Morality, Why Are We Good? Here, Dawkins systematically refutes the claim that religion is the necessary source of morality. He argues that our sense of morality has evolved through natural selection, promoting cooperative and altruistic behaviors that benefit a social group and, by extension, the individual's genes. He identifies 4 possible evolutionary explanations for altruism: kin selection, reciprocity, the cost of showing generosity as a signal of genetic fitness, and group selection. He provides numerous examples from the animal kingdom and human history to demonstrate that morality is an innate, secular, and evolved trait, not a divine gift. He concludes that a morality based on empathy, reason, and human flourishing is more robust and consistent than one based on the often contradictory and morally questionable commandments found in holy books. In Chapter 7, The Good Book and the Changing Moral Zeitgeist, Dawkins presents a scathing moral critique of the Bible and other religious texts. He meticulously catalogues a series of Old Testament stories involving genocide, cruelty, and misogyny, arguing that a truly moral person would find these accounts horrifying, not inspiring. He points out the moral inconsistencies within religious texts and highlights how modern believers often pick and choose which parts of their holy books to follow, conveniently discarding the more brutal passages that clash with modern secular values. This, he argues, is compelling evidence that our moral compass is not guided by Scripture but by a separate, evolving social consensus. Chapter 8, What's Wrong with Religion? Why Be So Hostile? Directly addresses the common accusation that Dawkins is overly aggressive and intolerant towards religion. He argues that religion is not a harmless quirk but a dangerous and destructive force in the world. He presents a detailed list of religion's negative effects, including its role in fostering fanaticism, justifying violence, promoting faith over evidence, and creating social division through in-group/in-group tribalism. He also critiques the respect given to religious belief, arguing that no other belief system is shielded from criticism in the same way. This chapter is a passionate defense of the need for open and uninhibited criticism of all ideas, religious or otherwise. Chapter 9, Childhood, Abuse, and Religion, is perhaps the most controversial part of the book. Dawkins provocatively equates the religious education of children with a form of psychological abuse. He argues that labeling a child as Catholic or Muslim is as inappropriate as labeling them a Keynesian child or a Marxist child before they are old enough to understand and choose their own beliefs. He contends that religious indoctrination implants unquestioned beliefs and a resistance to critical thinking from a young age, stifling a child's natural curiosity and reason. He advocates for teaching children about religions as part of a general cultural education, but not to be religious themselves. In the final chapter, A Much-Needed Gap, Dawkins addresses the common assertion that religion provides a necessary source of comfort and inspiration. He acknowledges the psychological solace many find in faith but argues that it comes at the cost of intellectual integrity. He presents a powerful counter-argument, asserting that science offers a truer, more profound, and more awe-inspiring source of wonder. He contrasts the paltry miracles of religion with the breathtaking beauty of the cosmos, the complexity of DNA, and the sheer scale of evolutionary time. He concludes with a positive vision of an atheist life, one full of purpose, happiness, and meaning, grounded in the reality of a finite life and the extraordinary privilege of being alive to witness and understand the universe. He argues that a life lived without the crutch of faith is a more courageous and ultimately more fulfilling existence, filled not with fear of a vengeful God, but with a profound appreciation for the real wonders of reality. The book concludes on a hopeful and inspirational note, celebrating the power of human reason and the beauty of the natural world. To read this book, click on the link in the description and read more interesting books.